a lot longer, but we have some really interesting things to move on to next. So I'm going to pivot, and we're now going to talk about coaching demo in the game film. David?
Many of you have seen most of our coaching demos, which we've done live in this program for the most part. Today, as I mentioned, it's going to be slightly different. We have a recording from a live coaching session, which was actually live in person in front of a small audience at one of our 7 Paths Forward workshops with Gwen. At the point that we did this demo, Gwen and I had not really officially met or spent any time together. So I basically asked for a volunteer. What do you want to work on? She said, I need some help processing grief. So that was basically all I knew when we sat down together to talk.
Yeah, managing grief. Sorry, it was managing.
Oh, managing grief. Yes, yeah. Yes. Thank you. There'll be a critical distinction as we get into this. And so we were in front of a group of other people, live and in person. And what we want you to do today is think about using chat to share your reactions, your thoughts, your questions, your observations on what's working, how is it going, and then we'll stop about 2.5 minutes in. It's a natural break in the demo, and chat a little bit about what's happening. We'll come back. It continues another 8 minutes or so, and then at the end of that, we'll come back and talk again as well. So a total of 10 minutes of coaching. So keep that in mind as you observe this, just to see what the dynamics are. David, anything else to share?
No, I think it's good. I think I would invite people to focus in on this. It's a really amazing session, and what you and Gwen got done in a little under 11 minutes is extraordinary. So be watching for what David did to make that happen.
Any other context, Gwen?
No, I think that's good. I think, I didn't know David before this. I mean, we just met. This was when I was first exposed to some of the training. So this is my entry point.
Thank you, Gwen.
Here we go.
Hi.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
What does that mean?
Just, not great. Great would be not accurate. I'm just okay. I'm hanging in there.
Okay. So you want to talk about grief?
Yeah, I want to figure out how to manage it, feel the emotions I need to feel, and still find a way to be available to people at work. I mean, for my job. And right now I'm picturing just not being able to take care of myself properly and maybe not being as present as I should be in my work. And I don't, this is new territory to me, and I am trying to figure it out.
Even as you say all that, it sounds kind of overwhelming.
Doesn't it sound just like oh my God, how exhausting.
Take care of other people and take care of myself and be present. And,
exactly. It's like I'm trying to be optimistic, but it's like the idea exhausts me.
So what do you want to let go of in that long list?
Maybe I need to let go of trying to manage everything. Which never crossed my mind before. It's my job to manage everything. Yeah. Or I tell myself.
That was the first thing you said. I want to figure out how to manage all this. And it's a long list.
Yeah. This whole idea of managing it is
what?
Is stress-inducing.
Yeah. Even in me.
Misery loves company. I'm so glad you're here. You can carry part of this too. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I want.
Why was that perfect?
Actually, because that's what I'm doing to myself. And the visual of it is like, yeah, that's how I feel. It's like I'm constantly trying to bring my shoulders back. I'm constantly trying to bring my shoulders back up.
stop here. So 2.5 minutes in, there's a few comments in chat about the humor, the empathy, the empathic connection. What else are you seeing here? What has happened in those 2.5 minutes? Use of humor.
Noting what you want to let go of. Looks to people like Gwen has been seen. I noticed that about a minute and a half in, Gwen sent something and you said, yeah, that's exactly the thing you said at the very beginning of the conversation. And I think that call back to what she said right at the very beginning, being able to call that out was such a powerful move. Very few and short questions, giving Gwen plenty of room to speak. Gave her a path to let go and allow and be her. Nice. You know, it's interesting for people that haven't dealt with grief much. It's always surprising how much humor plays into those conversations. And that's the part I remember most about my father passing away, is sitting on my parents' bed with my siblings, giggling and laughing most of the time about what we were dealing with. And so this notion that you're able to let humor show up was so interesting. David, were you driving the conversation or just watching the conversation?
I'm actively driving the conversation. So I'm driving it on her agenda, figuring out how she manages all of this. So we're trying to get to the heart of that question as quickly as we can and give her some practical techniques and things she can actually do to take action on this. At the same time, creating all the space that people are seeing for reflection, for connection, for her to do the thinking and the work.
I remember, because there was an audience. I mean, we had the camera and we have participants in the room. And I remember when it started, there was just, from David, a complete and utter laser focus, not in a creepy way, but just everything else fell to the wayside. And it's like, I'm here, it's you. What's going on with you matters, and that's all that matters right now. And it was incredibly powerful. And the mirroring and the space, it was just like, it was all about me and what was going on. And it just gave me, in such an incredibly short period of time, so many insights.
It's interesting. There was a place about 30, 45 seconds in where you said, I guess I need to do something. And David just paused and let you talk. And many coaches would have jumped in and said, I can help you with that. We can work on that. We can figure that out right now. And David didn't go there. He just let the space thrive. And other things bubbled up behind that. And I think that was such an important lesson and observation. I think the other thing that was really important, David billboarded this before we started it, but there was no pre-work. You didn't provide a whole history of your life. There was no information about your background, no intake process. You maybe had said a few words to each other. We knew ahead of time you wanted to work on grief. And we jumped in, and 2.5 minutes in, we're well past starting fast. We're into going deep already.
Awesome.
Stania asked a question. David P., do you usually sit that close to your clients?
For video, it's really important to be as close as you can. You always seem to be closer than you want to be in person when you're recording something, because otherwise on the screen, it looks like you're really far apart. But yes, in the distance we were at would be typical of a coaching conversation with someone where we're not at a desk or there's not a big table in between us with some artificial separation. So yeah, when there's not a table to set the bounds already, and Gwen referenced this, but I really think about creating a bubble of that we are here, we are present. This is the whole world. This is all that's happening right now. And it's that intensity of focus and the sense of presence that creates that bubble and that safety. So you can tune out and ignore all the people watching you in this sensitive conversation.
Where the camera is, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've got a microphone on and a camera.
That is totally it. It felt like this bubble. It's like, here's this bubble, and whatever's going on, I can just lay it all out. And it wasn't like, and David's, to the side taking notes or distracted. It was just like, whatever's going on right here in the bubble, let's do this.
And by the way, that's a coach-caused experience. That's not a client-caused experience.
Right. David's
presence, connection, body language, mirroring, safe, and silence is what created that bubble. That was a creation. It was not an accident. So in the next section, I invite you to pay particular attention to body language in addition to everything else that's going on, because I think that's worth noticing as we walk through as well. But pay attention to how David goes further deep and then how N strong shows up in this. So look for that as we get through this. We promised you a complete cycle, and this is a complete cycle in its 11 minutes. So it's pretty phenomenal. Let me get video number 2 going. Anything else, Gwen, you want to say while I'm doing that about watching this again so many years later?
This is after my father passed away, and it's actually really beautiful to me because my focus was wanting to honor him, and it's really nice to be able to see this again from that perspective, and also just to revisit what David did as a coach in this circumstance is also incredibly beneficial. So I really enjoy watching it again, which may sound strange, but it's not triggering or difficult because I did give myself time to grieve. And when I feel these feelings again, they're actually really beautiful.
Now you're giving away the end of the story. So
Sorry.
So you're trying to manage everything.
Yeah.
And you're going to let go of the need to feel like you need to manage everything.
Yes, I'm going to try to find a way. And I'm asking myself, why am I trying to manage everything? What does it even mean to manage everything? I couldn't even tell you, but yet that was so on the forefront of my mind.
So what's one thing you can let go of?
If I wake up one day at work and I am in tears, I am going to cancel my coaching. Because I'm trying to manage my feelings and be a coach at the same time, and it's just impossible.
Yeah.
Well, it's possible, but it's not pretty. It's not pretty.
What else can you let go of?
Not being so available to my friends who also lean on me. I don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
I just don't have it.
What else can you let go of?
The idea that I'm less than for needing to step back.
Wow. Yeah. What else?
Focusing on doing versus being. I just need to be. I just need to be.
What do you need to be?
Still,
Yeah.
quiet, reflective.
that going to happen?
I need to be clear on my boundaries. I need to be clear for myself. I need to make them explicit to other people who may not be excited about hearing it. Because they're not used to hearing it.
Yeah. What's going to be the hardest place you need to set boundaries? Set a boundary?
Probably work. Work. Because I've already gotten 3 days off for a funeral, so what more could I possibly want? That's very generous.
Is there a particular person or a situation that's going to be really hard?
I think my boss.
Okay. What's the conversation going to be?
Still needing half the day off or a day off here and there for the next month or 2 months as needed.
Would that be helpful for you to create that space?
Huge. It'd be huge.
Okay.
It'd be huge. Yep. And not taking on any more new projects or new assignments or new tasks, or that's also part of it.
So you need some freedom to take time off. You need the flexibility to not take on new projects for now.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you need from your boss?
No, that would really be it.
Okay. How would you go about having that conversation?
The best way to do it is to first talk to my career coach about it.
Okay.
Bounce it off of him, and then figure out a way to approach her.
Okay.
Meet her where she's at.
And you started off by saying you wanted to create space for your grief.
Yeah.
Does this create that space?
Yeah, it does. I feel like lighter just thinking about visualizing where in my schedule that's like this many days, like there are actually pockets and opportunities.
And what does it mean to experience the grief?
Feel it fully. Keep my father. Keep him present. Continuing to honor him.
Yeah.
Remembering things. Taking the time to have the space to remember moments. Not be so busy that they never pop into my head. Yeah. Carving out time for what really matters.
Yeah. What else would be helpful right now?
I can't actually think of anything. It was having the conversation was creating that space, was a step in creating that space. And connecting with what really matters.
Yeah. You know, so
Very empathic.
letting go of the need to manage everything, setting some boundaries at work so you actually have time and flexibility to make the choices you need. When you have that time, accepting that you're just going to sit with that grief. Is that it?
Yeah, it is. Because I'm very comfortable sitting with it, I'm not comfortable ignoring it.
Yeah. You're going to have a whole series of difficult moments. Saying no to your friends, saying no to clients, saying no to your boss. You prepared for that?
Yeah, because it's for all the right reasons. Yeah. It may change the dynamic of my relationships, but I actually want to know where I stand with people when I say no. I'm prepared for that too. Thanks.
You are welcome.
This is good. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Definitely. Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you.
David, what do you think we should start with?
A lot of people are really appreciating all of the acceptance, the what else questions, and that. I was particularly struck by the relaxed nature of your shoulders throughout all that. And I'm curious if that was intentional, if you can remember back what you were thinking about. Are you always sitting that way? But there was no urgency in your body language, even though this conversation was 11 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty typical for me. I find myself kind of getting into that posture. What your comment about watching the body language in general, I was very expressive physically, shrugging my shoulders, scrunching my face up at different things, well, whatever, just really, really dynamic, not big gestures, but very active gestures. And the shoulder shrugs and a few other things, I think, communicated a lot that might have gone into words otherwise, but it kept the focus on Gwen and just sort of validated, yep, all right, good point.
And I think the economy of your language, I think, created an economy of language on her part. There was a rhythm to the session.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I think we were just, I don't remember at the time. I remember a lot about it at the time, but now looking at it, I think it was just, we're just getting to the essence of the whole thing. Well, and I remember the space. I'm sorry, David G, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I remember the space at the time, and David P was saying, and what else? And I remember at the time thinking, I have to come up with something else now. But but it's so funny to go back and watch it. It's like, yeah, but what I came up with was like pretty spot on. So in some ways, David P seemed to know, it's like you keep going until they run out, because I still had things and I didn't even realize I had things that were completely spot on that I had to address.
Yeah, and that last one was significant. So there's an interesting rhythm to the what else question. So I think about this in two ways. One way of asking what else is just to find something good enough to work on. Another way is to let's go deeper. Let's find the real issue here. And so I think I asked what else 5 times. What else can you let go of? Or what could you let go of? What else 4 times? But what can you let go of 5 times? And each one, your response took longer. And in the last one, it was so clear you were really working. And then when you come back, I encourage people to watch this again for this moment if they would like. But when Gwen comes back with that last one, there's a finality to it. There's a micro expression of this is, yes, I need to do this. And it was definitive in a way that the others were exploratory, scratching the surface. And so to me, that signals, okay, we found the real stuff. We found the workable level. We've got a good list, and that last one kind of connected deeply. So then, like, what do you need to do? How do you make that happen? we move to action. So there is this creating space for exploration, but when we find the working level, just propulsively move forward.
I think the thing I see many coaches do is they would have empathized verbally with Gwen's situation in ways that would have taken a lot of extra time. And you empathized non-verbally.
Yeah, and I don't think people can see it, but I was tearing up in this when Gwen was tearing up. So we were, there was that dynamic as well. I tear up just watching this again. So
I teared up earlier today and again just now.
Yeah. So there's a lot of emotional connection in there that goes beyond just the words.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The other thing that I want to point out is it's clear at the end of this that Gwen's going to take action. She's going to do what needs to get done. She's going to protect her space. She's going to help herself to have the room and space to do that. And Gwen, I'm curious, did you actually do that?
Yeah, I did those things. Yeah, I absolutely did those things. And some relationships went to the wayside and others thrived. And I left that role and I went out on my own. So a lot of major life changes came out of that.
11 minutes, start fast, go deep and strong. And really the purpose of End Strong is to make sure that those insights and all that deep work turn into action. And clearly it did for you, Gwen. And this is what we mean by a complete cycle. David, any other comments for yourself on watching this back? You've had a chance to watch it a couple of times today, and we did this 3 years ago almost. And I'm just curious what your own reflection on seeing it again is.
I tell people all the time, I'm a very simple person. And to me, this is the essence of that simplicity. Hey, what do you want to work on? Where do you want to start? What are you going to do? How will you follow up? How will you make sure that happens? Okay, we're good. You good? Yep, we're good. It's just incredibly simple. And I think what people are seeing here is it took years to refine that set of questions, to develop the intuition about when to speak and when not to. So it looks really, really simple, but it's the result of decades of work to get to that economy of language, the intense focus, the clarity of the questions. These are non-trivial kinds of things. And so for me to watch it and just see, yeah, it does look really easy. It does seem really focused and clear and simple and straightforward. Like I can appreciate that came from years of looking stupid and making all kinds of mistakes and being very awkward at it. So it's interesting to see that.
But if we think of a great violinist, when we see them perform on stage, it looks amazing and easy. And what we didn't see is that they practiced the piece we saw on stage for years to be able to perform it that way. And practice makes it look easy. Nicely done, both of you. Thank you, Gwen. Thanks so much for your generosity and sharing it with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. So we are going to shift back now to our agenda. It's kind of a, move from this emotional thing to a little intellectual thing. We're toggling back and forth. It's one of the things that we try to incorporate into our work, into our coaching, and into these workshops. So the pre-work survey, we ask you some questions about what mental models have you incorporated? How has your coaching changed? And so we will take a look at what you told us.
So our first question was, what was the most useful tool or model for you? And we've put up this big list that David put together of all of the things we've worked on in this program. And
here's what you said. So development pipeline and gaps grid, we have heard all along that people like those and use them. The thing that surprised me, and I think some of the other folks here, is the second and third order consequences really seemed to resonate. And many of you, in responding to the question, said, I'm already using it with my clients, and some of them are starting to use it in their teams. So it's actually cascading forward, which is fascinating. That's part of why we do this. I'm glad to hear it.
I was also quite struck by this notion of all the tools, or too many to list, or I have a digestion problem. I'm going to need more time to work through all of this. So that was our fourth rated answer. So that was quite interesting. Anything strike you about this, Gwen?
Likewise, I was surprised at how high second and third order consequences were. But I remember when I first started working with both of you, that the development pipeline and the gaps grid were just mind-blowing and so helpful. So helpful in better understanding where my clients were coming from and where to meet them where they're at.
Great. And then we asked you, what was the biggest change in mindset or mental model for you?
A very common answer was that it expanded and evolved my thinking. I was looking at questions from a deeper, richer perspective. It made my current mental models more useful because I understood them better. And the second point, that there's greater awareness that I actually have mental models and that I can adapt them and use them and be much more intentional about them. So all pretty positive outcomes from our perspective.
Yeah, I like this notion of expanding my toolkit, more research and models to draw from. I think that's so important and a big goal of this program. But 8 and 9 on this list, I liked a lot. This notion of trying to fix my client instead of walking alongside them with humility. And David, you just demonstrated that so beautifully in the demo with Gwen as well. You weren't fixing her grief. You were walking alongside her. What do you need? How can I help? And I think that's a real difference. And this notion of not worrying about, am I being a good or great coach? But how do I best help my client? It's a big theme of this session. How am I providing service to this person in this moment? And if you do that consistently and effectively with all the resources, you'll deliver great work.
Yeah, and I'd like to add too, I think that there's something really important about David in the demo with me being empathetic and connected, but not enmeshed in my emotions or enmeshed in what I was feeling, which is very different and challenging territory for coaches.
Yep, very good.
I can't remember if we've talked about this in this program, but I have this notion of unconditional positive disregard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's Carl Rogers' unconditional positive regard, creating this safe, warm, accepting, tolerant, non-judgmental bubble. But the unconditional positive disregard is like, hey, this is your life. Go live it. So I care deeply about your ability to grow and learn and resolve your challenges. And I don't care too much. And that's where I think some coaches get hooked. They get enmeshed. I like that word. They care too much. They want to fix the problem. They want you to survive. They want you to do this stuff. And they start to impose on you.
Beautiful.
So go ahead, David.
So you, in your survey, a lot of you said, I want to know what's next. Where are we going to go? So congratulations, you've come really far on this journey. And in your survey responses, given you said what's next and what you needed, many of you were kind enough to say these are the kinds of things you needed. We took all that together, we met with the team, and we really thought through what would be a learning journey that would really support your continued development. As you've seen in this list that we've shared with you many years worth of models and tools. And many of you are eager for an environment where you can really digest those and continue practicing, implementing them, and putting into practice. So we felt like there was really a need to have more room to digest, learn, practice, implement, and continue this journey. So we designed what we called Journey Plus. And it's a monthly membership. And it includes 4 elements, and it operates on a monthly cycle on the second, third, and fourth Mondays of every month. So we start out on the second Monday with a live 90-minute coaching demo. So this might be a game film session like we did today with Gwen. It might be live demos with participants. It may be actual real clients who have situations that can be shared publicly. But these will be long 90-minute sessions. We might do 2 or 3 demos, but we're going to really dig in to be able to demonstrate how these tools and ideas are implemented and put into practice. So you'll see us doing some coaching. Some of the virtuosi will be doing coaching, but it'll be a real powerful coaching demo session. ACE Live is our current program, which is on the third Thursday. That's going to move to the third Monday of every month. And that's where we continue to interview and have deep conversations with thought leaders about the topics that are most important for coaches to know about, given what's happening in the world and what's happening in the calendar. So that's an important piece that really continues, another piece of content. Then in the fourth Monday of every month, we're going to alternate practicum sessions and implementation sessions. These practicum sessions will be similar in style to what you've experienced, but we're going to keep them to groups of about 12. And we're asking the facilitators to spend more in-person time with each of the groups, provide more in-person feedback along the way, to provide even more customized attention to you and the things that you're working on. The implementation sessions with the ACE faculty will be a case where you can bring case studies, where you can work through different models and approaches that happen. So all of those things are going to happen with the faculty, and those sessions will alternate: 1 month of practicum, 1 month an implementation session. So a lot built into that. This program starts on February 8th. It's going to go monthly, and we recommend that people engage monthly because it's a great community and way to keep practicing and growing and developing. We're asking you to commit to 6 months at the beginning. We're going to mail you this brochure, email it to you. You can also click on the link in the chat box that Dino has provided. So you have many ways to get to that. We'd love to have you register and join us. It's going to be a really vital program. Many of the people from the earlier session today have already registered. They're super excited and can't wait to join us. But we are going to talk a little bit more about exercise and reflection later. And we're going to give you a little pause in January and then jump in with vigor in February. So the other thing to know about is that if you indeed register by December 21st, we're going to give you a special bonus, which is the Business Accelerator series, where we go into more depth on how do you position yourself to corporate. We also have a much more detailed creating a proposal workshop, which many people are really eager for, and pricing and packaging. This program will be offered at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on all the days in those calendars. So there will be live sessions available for people to attend. So we will be attending to all time zones. So we'll look forward to that. The other thing to know about is that some of you will be nominated to join us in Virtuoso. And Virtuoso is our invitation only for people that are very, very experienced and very senior in the coaching profession. We encourage you, if you want to continue studying with us, to join Journey Plus. If you are indeed nominated for Virtuoso, your membership will be upgraded and you will have access to many of the Journey Plus elements in your Virtuoso membership. We'll be sharing more details about Virtuoso in January, and those nominations are being sorted through over the month of December. But if you want to continue working with us, Journey Plus is the right place to go at this time. We don't want to spend a lot of time going through this today. Our commitment is to provide content and value, not spend a lot of time answering questions that can be done offline with the sales team. So feel free to connect with people and make phone calls, send emails. We'll send all this information by email, but we have more content to get to, and we'd love to do that. So let's keep moving.
Another bit of a pivot in tone and direction. So the final section of our final module is all about what's next for you, crafting your journey beyond the journey to great coaching. And we'd love to have you with us. So that's why we've built this set of offerings here. But the question for you personally, regardless of when and where our paths cross again, is what are you optimizing for in your life, in your coaching, in your plans for the next year or 3 or 5? Please feel free to take a look at the ACE wheel and think about this from the big picture perspective. This is in your resources on your member site for today. We talked about this in our last content session. I just added some of my dimensions in here. These are things that matter to me. And I will continue to revise and tweak and think about this. I spent quite a bit of time pondering, do I include music on here as one of the elements of my life? And I was like, no, I really do think so. I love music. It's a big part of my life and my wife's life. We talk about music. We listen to music a lot. And so, yes, that's on here. These are the things that at this point in my life matter to me. So I encourage you to do the same as you think about what's next for you.
And the tool has been upgraded and in your resource area, and it's really beautifully put together. So I highly recommend you spend time with it if you haven't already.
We'll close out with, I think there's 6 quotes in here that really set the stage for this. And they're a little longer than we've typically done in the past. So we'll just ask you to read them and we'll comment a little bit. But Suri Surinder posts a lot on LinkedIn. I really appreciate many of his posts and what he's talking about. But this notion that starts in the first paragraph, I used to think that if one was smart and worked hard, it would lead to success. And it does up to a point. So I'll give you a few seconds to read through here, and then I'll come back and comment on the last paragraph. So he starts off talking about table stakes. This is what's going to differentiate me. But hey, now I'm at the head of the table here. I need to be resilient and resourceful in new and different ways. And the question, what are you optimizing for? He's talking about optimizing at this later stage of the game, optimizing character, temperament, mental toughness, your mindset, because that's how you stand out from the rest of the crowd. Similarly, another long quote, Peter Drucker, one of the great management thinkers of the last century. He had this personal process of picking a new subject to study every 3 or 4 years. And he, in fact, did study Japanese art. He studied economics. He studied the history of the city of Paris at different points. So every 3 or 4 years, picking a new topic. By no means is that enough to master the subject, but you can understand it. And the last paragraph again here stands out. That not only has given me a substantial fund of knowledge, it has also forced me to be open to new disciplines and new approaches and new methods. For every one of the subjects I have studied makes different assumptions and employs a different methodology. Does this remind you of mental models? It's in triangulation, looking at things from different perspectives. How would a historian look at this? How would an artist look at this? How would an economist look at this? How would a manager look at this? And you really begin to make bigger and better sense of the bigger and better, or bigger and broader time horizons and the broader scope. So again, the question for you, what are you optimizing for? For comfort today, for long-term resilience, viability, adaptability, agility? So we really want you to think about this question. And as we go, feel free to pop things in chat, what you're optimizing for. You've seen this slide before, seeing the bigger picture. So optimizing for the long game, the bigger picture, practicing for you and your clients how you can see deeper inside, how you can see bigger systems, bigger processes, bigger dynamics, longer time frames, looking forward and back to see farther and farther into history. The longer the time frame and the bigger the system you see, the more everything else starts to make sense. The more you see the connections, the more you see the patterns. And it's not just a disruption, it's actually part of a series of disruptions that form a pattern that can actually provide some level of comfort. And finally, this notion of diversity that's so essential in today's world, that we all get better at looking at things from different perspectives, see things from other people's lenses. It reminds us of this idea of toggling or oscillating, looking inward, looking outward, looking forward, looking back, and repeating those different cycles at the edge of your comfort zone. So what's the farthest I can look forward and the farthest I can look back that actually kind of stretches my capacity to make sense of things? So all of these back and forth, in and out, up and down kind of dynamics expand your perspective. We have not talked much about the last two here, this exercise and recovery cycle. And when you exercise and you push yourself to the limit, you stress your muscles and your bones. If you don't take time for recovery and re-energizing, you actually don't get fit as well as you do when you alternate those two.
I think really critical element that you got to pay attention to. We're going to have Jason Koop joining us in December for ACE Live. He's going to talk a lot about this notion of exercise and recovery. So heads up for that as well.
Yeah, that'll be, I think, very fascinating for folks. And then this notion of putting stress on yourself and on the system, and then creating slack. So you have flexibility and degrees of freedom to experiment, to play, to reflect, to talk to other people. So you have to have that cycle, the yin and the yang, so both come together to create a greater whole.
And it's also one of the reasons why we're giving you a pause before Journey Plus starts. We want you to absorb the lessons and the ideas and have January to think and integrate and get ready to rock and roll come February.
So again, what are you optimizing for? What really matters most to you in the next year? And what are you doing to optimize for that? And then one last shift in perspective again to an emotional, creative, poetic kind of notion. So Heather McHugh is a poet. She wrote this poem: I write poems to wake myself up or to preserve a suddenly lit, awakened state. Of dreams as of taste, too many sweets spoil the sense. It's not nice dreams I'm yearning for, it's true dreams. And then at the heart of so much of this, we're asking you to try new things, to experiment, to push yourself to the edge of your comfort zone. If you don't have courage, all of these things are really hard to do. Maya Angelou talks about courage is the most important of the virtues.